been lying to my family for 15 years. Not about anything important, not about who I am or what I believe in, just about what I actually do for a living. It started small. When I graduated from Quantico and got my first posting in Miami, my brother Anthony asked what I'd be doing at the FBI. I said financial crimes and watched his eyes glaze over like I'd started reciting tax code. He changed the subject to his new promotion in medical device sales. From that moment on, the family narrative was set. Anthony was the successful one, and I was the other one. The one who kept moving cities every few years because, as my mother liked to say, federal jobs just shuffle people around. The one who never seemed to have money for the nice things Anthony bought. The one whose job was so boring that nobody ever asked about it twice. I could have corrected them, could have explained that those shuffles were actually prestigious assignments to high-profile cases. Could have mentioned that I lived modestly, because I was banking 70% of my income and would retire at 50 with more money than Anthony would see in his lifetime. But here's what I learned about my brother. He needed me to be unsuccessful, not in a cruel way, in a desperate way. Anthony was the golden child who'd gotten the sales job right out of college, married his high school sweetheart, bought the house in the suburbs. He'd done everything right according to the family playbook. And then I joined the FBI, and suddenly there was this question mark in the family narrative. What if I was doing something more important? What if my mysterious job that took me to Miami, New York, Los Angeles, and DC was actually impressive? So Anthony did what insecure people do. He decided I wasn't impressive. He decided I was broke, aimless, probably failing at whatever boring administrative work I was doing. And once he decided that, every interaction we had was filtered through that lens. The thing is, I let him. Because fighting it seemed exhausting. And because there was something almost anthropologically fascinating about watching him construct this entire fictional version of my life. Also, operational security is a real thing. The less my family knew about my actual work, the less they could accidentally mention at barbecues or post on Facebook. When you're investigating people who move hundreds of millions in illicit funds, anonymity is a feature, not a bug. The text came on a Wednesday afternoon while I was reviewing wire transfer records for a securities fraud case. Anthony, poker night this Saturday, you in? I stared at my phone. Anthony's poker nights were legendary in their casual cruelty. A bunch of his sales buddies sitting around his dining room table, buying in for amounts designed to make me uncomfortable. Talking about commissions and bonuses and investment properties. I should have declined. I had a case briefing on Monday that I needed to prep for. But some masochistic part of me was curious how bad it would be this time. Me, sure, what time? Anthony, 7, don't worry about bringing anything, we've got it covered. Translation, don't bother bringing expensive beer or good whiskey because we know you can't afford it. Me, see then. Saturday arrived with the kind of gray November weather that makes you question your life choices. I spent the morning at the office finishing paperwork on a money laundering case that would probably send 3 hedge fund managers to prison. Then I drove to Anthony's house in Sterling, Virginia, a nice 4-bedroom with a 2-car garage and a lawn that screamed, I have both time and money. His wife Beth answered the door. She was kind in a pitying way, like a shelter volunteer trying not to cry while showing you the saddest dogs. Kenyatta, come in! The guys are already in the dining room. She lowered her voice. I made sure Anthony knows not to pressure you to play if the buy-in's too much. That's thoughtful. We just worry about you, you know, with all the moving around, never settling down. I'm very settled, actually. Oh, I meant financially. Anthony says federal jobs don't pay much. I thought about my last paycheck, about the 6-figure balance in my savings account. About the investment portfolio I'd built with the help of a financial advisor who specialized in law enforcement clients. You're right, I said. We're basically volunteers. She laughed, missing the sarcasm entirely. Well, there's beer in the kitchen if you want it. I grabbed a beer, some craft IPA that probably cost $8 a bottle, and headed to the dining room. Anthony's poker table was set up exactly as I'd expected. 6 chairs around a laminate-top table that had seen better days, poker chips stacked in neat rows, cards already shuffled. The overhead light was harsh fluorescent, the kind that makes everyone look slightly jaundiced. 4 of his friends were already there: Tyler, Josh, Brandon, and someone I didn't recognize. They were in their late 30s to early 40s, all in the sales bro uniform of expensive casual wear, designer jeans, fitted button-downs, watches that cost more than my car payment. Kenny! Anthony stood up to hug me, using the nickname I'd hated since childhood. Glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it. Tyler raised his beer. Long time. Still with the FBI? Yep. Still moving around? It's the nature of the work. Man, that's gotta be tough. No stability, no chance to build equity, always renting. He shook his head sympathetically. At least the government's got good benefits, right? The best, I said dryly. Josh jumped in. What are you working on these days? Still doing the admin stuff? Financial crimes. Right. He clearly had no idea what that meant. So, like, paperwork? Forms? Something like that. The new guy extended his hand. Greg, I work with Anthony in the Mid-Atlantic Territory. Kenyatta. She's Anthony's sister, Brandon explained. Works for the feds. Oh, cool. What do you do? Before I could answer, Anthony jumped in. She's kind of a generalist. They move her around to different offices to fill in where they need admin support. I took a long drink of my $8 beer and said nothing. Sounds flexible, Greg said politely. It's certainly flexible, I agreed. Anthony started distributing chips. All right, boys and lady, buy-in is $500. We playing Texas Hold'em, standard rules, no wild cards. $500. The number hung in the air like a challenge. Tyler pulled out his wallet and counted out bills. I'm in. Josh did the same. Me too. Brandon. Obviously. Greg hesitated, looking at his wallet. That's steeper than I thought. Anthony slapped his back. Come on, man. You just closed that hospital contract. You can afford it. True, Greg counted out $500. They all looked at me. I was doing the math in my head. $500 was about 3 hours of my hourly rate when you factored in leap. I'd made $500 this morning filing paperwork. But they didn't know that. Anthony shuffled the deck, the cards making that satisfying riffle sound. Kenny, you can watch if you want. I know $500's probably not in the budget right now. It's fine, I said. I'm serious, sis. No pressure. This is supposed to be fun, not stressful. I appreciate the concern. I just know federal salaries aren't exactly competitive, and with all your moving costs. Josh added helpfully, my sister works for the government too. She's always broke. It's the trade-off for job security, Brandon said, nodding sagely. You make less, but at least you can't get fired. I wondered what they'd say if they knew that last year I'd helped seize $340 million in assets from a Ponzi scheme. That my job security came with a weapon and the authority to arrest people who thought they were untouchable. Anthony was still shuffling, showing off a little. Seriously, Kenny, no judgment if you want to sit this one out. You can watch, have a beer, relax. Or we could lower the buy-in, Tyler suggested. Make it more accessible. More accessible, like I was a charity case. She plays scratch-offs at the gas station, Anthony said, grinning. That's more her speed. The table laughed, not mean laughter, friendly, inclusive laughter. The kind that makes you part of the joke, even as it's being made at your expense. Scratch-offs. I thought about the last time I'd bought a lottery ticket. It was never. Because I understood statistics, and because I didn't need to gamble when my annual bonus was larger than most people's entire salary. That's more my speed, I agreed quietly. They dealt without looking at me. The cards whispered across the laminate table, chips clinked into the pot, beer bottles sweated onto coasters. I sat in the corner with my $8 IPA and watched my brother hold court, watched him be the successful one, the generous one, the one who didn't have to worry about money. And I said nothing. Because what was I going to do? Pull out my FBI credentials and my pay stubs? Explain that I was probably the highest earner at this table? That just sounded petty, defensive. Better to let them have their narrative. Better to be the scratch-off sister than to be the person who needed to prove herself. The game progressed. Tyler won a big hand and crowed about it. Josh lost 200 in the first 30 minutes and had to borrow from Brandon. Anthony played conservatively, folding often, narrating his strategy like he was teaching a master class. Around 8:30 p.m., Beth brought in more beer and some wings. She gave me an extra sympathetic smile as she set down my plate. "How's work going?" she asked. "Anthony said you're in D.C. now?" "For the moment." "What's the FBI office like there? Fancy?" "It's a building. I just think it's so interesting, working for the government. So different from what Anthony does." She said different the way you'd say special needs, with care and pity. "Very different," I agreed. After she left, Greg looked at me curiously. "You said you work in financial crimes, like fraud?" "Mostly." "That's actually pretty cool." "I had a client once who got hit by a scam, fake investment company. Took him for 300 grand. The FBI helped get some of it back." "We try." "Is that what you do? Help people get their money back?" "Sometimes. We also investigate the people running the scams. Build cases for prosecution." Anthony waved a hand dismissively. "She's being modest. It's mostly paperwork, right, Kenny? Following up on complaints, filing reports?" "There's definitely paperwork involved." "That's government work for you," Tyler said. "Everything's bureaucracy." They returned to their game. I returned to my beer. Around 9 p.m. there was a knock at the door. Beth answered it, and I heard a familiar voice. "Sorry I'm late." Traffic from Fairfax was brutal. A man walked into the dining room, carrying a six-pack. He was about 45, wearing a polo shirt and khakis, looking like every other suburban dad in Northern Virginia. He was also Greg Matthews, a senior analyst from the General Services Administration who processed federal payroll for multiple agencies, including the FBI. I'd met him exactly once, at a interagency briefing 3 months ago. We'd been introduced briefly, shook hands, never spoke again. And now he was here, at my brother's poker game. He set down his beer and looked at the table. "What'd I miss?" "First 2 hands," Anthony said. "You're just in time." "Buy-in's 500. "Ouch. Okay." Greg pulled out his wallet. His eyes swept the room and landed on me. I saw the recognition hit him like a truck. His expression went from friendly to confused to concerned in about 2 seconds. "Hey," he said carefully, "have we met?" "I don't think so," I said. "You look really familiar." "I have one of those faces." He was still staring. I could see his brain working, trying to place me. Anthony interrupted. "Greg, this is my sister Kenyatta. Kenny, this is Greg Matthews. He works with me, just joined our territory last quarter." "Nice to meet you," I said neutrally. "Yeah, you too." But he kept staring, and I could see the moment it clicked. The briefing. The FBI Financial Crimes Division, Special Agent Paris presenting on asset forfeiture procedures. His face did something complicated. "So you're Anthony's sister," he said slowly. "That's right." "And you work for—" "The government." "Right, the government." He picked up his beer, took a long drink, set it down. "Which department again?" "Federal." Anthony laughed. "She's FBI, but it's not as exciting as it sounds." "Basically a desk job, right, Kenny?" Greg's beer was halfway to his mouth. He froze. "A desk job," he repeated. "Yeah, she does financial crime stuff. Paperwork, forms, that kind of thing." Greg set his beer down very carefully. He looked at me. I shook my head almost imperceptibly, but he'd already had 2 beers, and his filter was compromised. "500?" he said, looking at the buy-in. $500? "Yeah," Anthony said, shuffling. "Too rich for your blood?" "No, he laughed, sharp and nervous. 500, that's funny." "Why is it funny?" "Because," he looked at me again. I was giving him every possible nonverbal signal to shut up, but he was tipsy and confused, and the words were already coming out. "Because your sister's annual bonus is 6 figures." The cards stopped moving. What? Anthony's voice was flat. I process federal payroll, Greg said. GS-14 FBI agents with her time in service. He stopped, his face going pale as he realized what he was doing. Oh shit, I'm sorry, that's confidential. I've had too much beer, I shouldn't have said that. Nobody moved. Ma'am, Greg said, looking at me with genuine horror. I apologize. That was completely inappropriate. When he said you were playing scratch-offs and couldn't afford $500, I didn't. The silence wasn't the kind you'd describe with cliches about pins dropping. It was the kind where you can hear people's brains rewiring their entire understanding of reality. Tyler spoke first. Did he just say 6 figures? For a bonus? GS-14, Greg said weakly, like a man watching a car crash he'd caused. Plus leap, plus locality pay. Her base is probably 165, total comp close to 200, and the bonuses? Kenny? Anthony's voice cracked on my name. I took a drink of my $8 beer. He's had a lot to drink. But is he lying? I looked at my brother, at his expensive casual wear and his laminate table and his poker game designed to make him feel successful. No, I said quietly, he's not lying. Brandon's chip stack toppled over. Nobody noticed. $200,000? Josh said. You make $200,000 a year. Give or take. And the bonus? Depends on the case outcomes. Last year was good. This year's looking better. Tyler's mouth was open. But you always said. I said I worked in financial crimes. You guys decided that meant paperwork. Anthony was staring at his cards like they might explain something. The moving around, the different cities. High-profile cases, they assign lead agents where they're needed. The shitty apartments. I own a condo in Arlington. I rent furnished places for temporary assignments because it's easier than moving furniture every 2 years. But you never have money. You never buy nice things. I'm saving for early retirement. I'll be done at 50 with full pension and about $3 million in investments. The number hit the table like a grenade. Greg had his head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I violated like 6 federal privacy regulations. Please don't report me. I won't, I said. When he said scratch-offs, I know. You're literally one of the highest paid criminal investigators in the Bureau's financial division. Greg, I said gently, stop talking. He stopped talking. Anthony's face had gone through shock and was landing somewhere near humiliation. His careful poker face was gone, replaced by something raw and hurt. Why didn't you tell us? He whispered. I tried. 15 years ago. You changed the subject. But you could have. Could have what? Insisted. Brought my pay stubs to Thanksgiving, worn my credentials to Christmas dinner? Yes. You didn't want to know, Anthony. You wanted me to be the unsuccessful one. You needed it. Beth appeared in the doorway, drawn by the sudden silence. Everything okay? Nobody answered her. Tyler found his voice. Jesus Christ, we've been treating you like the poor sister. Yeah. The scratch-offs thing, Anthony said hoarsely. I said that every time. I know. And you just let me. It seemed easier than fighting about it. Josh was shaking his head. This whole time, while we were talking about our commissions and our bonuses, I was probably making more than all of you combined. Yeah. Brandon's poker chip stack was still scattered across the table. He looked at it, then at me. Why'd you even come to these games? That was the question, wasn't it? Why had I subjected myself to this? Because you're my brother, I said to Anthony. And I kept thinking maybe someday you'd actually ask, actually want to know, actually see me. His face crumpled. Kenny. But you never did. You just kept dealing cards and making jokes about scratch-offs and assuming I was broke. The dining room felt very small suddenly. Very bright. The fluorescent light was unforgiving, showing every expression, every moment of shame. Greg stood up. I should go. I'm really sorry. Sit down, Greg, I said. You're not the problem here. Quote. He sat. I stood. I'm going to leave now. Thank you for the beer. I looked at Anthony, and for the record, I don't play scratch-offs, but I do play poker. And $500? I pulled my wallet out, counted out 5 crisp $100 bills, and tossed them on the table. That's about what I spend on coffee in a month. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Beth say, "Anthony, what just happened?" I heard my brother say, "I have no idea." I heard Tyler say, "Holy shit." I got in my car, a modest Honda Civic that I drove because it was reliable, and I didn't need to prove anything to anyone, and sat there for a moment. My phone buzzed. A text from my SAC, special agent in charge. "Brief me Monday on the Cayman accounts case. Good work this week." I texted back, "Will do." Then I drove back to my Arlington condo, the one Anthony thought was a shitty apartment, and sat on my balcony with a real drink. 30-year Macallan that cost more than the entire pot at that poker game. And I thought about how sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them prove themselves.